Everybody, Jake Perez here with Onward, my weekly show dedicated to helping ordinary people live extraordinary lives. You can catch me right here live, usually every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, as I speak with some of the world's most interesting people about a variety of topics, all dedicated to helping you change your life forever. Tonight, of course, we're bringing you a special Thursday night episode of Onward, so I appreciate you guys being here with us tonight. My guests on the show tonight are visiting with us all the way from down under. Sohan and Vas, this dynamic duo, is joining me from Australia tonight. This fun, loving, and amazing couple have devoted their lives to bettering the lives of others. Through their transformational coaching programs, they teach people how to radically change their reality by mastering their emotions, improving relationships, and transforming their mindsets. Sohan and Vas, welcome to Onward.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
All right. I'm so glad to have you guys.
Thank you.
So glad to be here.
Pleasure to be here, buddy. It's Friday morning for us here. We're excited,
Rise and
and
shine.
we'll bring it home.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we got to chat a little bit, and we can chat about anything at all on here. But it was great chatting with you a little bit pre-show there, and we're just talking a little bit about Onward and the logo. Sohan, you mentioned the logo, and we're talking about some symbolism in it there, and there's definitely some symbolism in the logo, and this whole show is just about helping people who want to change their life, right? They're sick of the mundane, of being average, stuck in bad relationships and jobs, and a life that they don't want, right? And that's something that you guys really specialize in. And you were telling me before the show, you really specialize in helping people, kind of transform their love, money, and mindset. Is that right?
Absolutely right.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Who doesn't need love, money, and mindset transformation, right? That's what it's all about.
100%. 100%.
I appreciate you guys here. I'm so glad y'all are hanging out with us right now live. So I mean, would you tell us a little bit more about what you do and kind of how you got into where you are, and then let's bring the fire and drop some value bombs, and I'm gonna let you kind of teach what people can do to change their love, money, and mindset. Let's go.
Let's do it, ladies.
Right. Ladies first. Boss, you're up. He gave you the ball. You're up.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll take it. Hi, guys. My name's Vas, and I'm here to be able to serve you. As you heard Jake say, love, money, and mindset, baby. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation in your business or in your life where things are just not going to plan? And just, stuck there wondering what it is that you're doing wrong. Well, that's where we can help. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, but always, everything that happens in our life is happening to us, is happening for us, not to us. And it all starts within. Something is rumbling on the inside of us, which is causing these external factors to happen. And this is where we can help you. We really love to be able to actually help our clients, our business owners and entrepreneurs, to be able to actually step inside of themselves, because they are not just business owners and entrepreneurs, they are people. The ability to be able to connect with ourselves, and the ability to be able to connect to serve the people we were born to serve. That is just such a beautiful mission that, has been bestowed upon us, and we've taken it and run with it and helped so many people change their lives through love, money, and mindset, and giving people the ability to be able to actually see and break through those limiting past beliefs, those indoctrinations, and be able to actually create that new blueprint in the now, every area, because it is possible. Wow, all of you, babe.
I'm glad I don't have to follow that up. I'm just the host.
Like, whoo, here we go. I reckon, it's really powerful when you have this kind of, everything, what she said, right? If you guys are listening right now, it's so important to understand how you create a blueprint, because it wasn't, no one gave me a blueprint. No one gave Vas a blueprint. Vas and I are self-made, right? We're self-made in the sense of, just like you guys are, you're self-made in many ways, and the fact that you're listening to this conversation right now
means you're a step ahead.
Is a classic situation. Yeah, you're leaps and bounds ahead actually than the average Joe, and you're actually self-made too. But excuse me, where I was going with that is we didn't have coaches in our initial years. We had to find coaches, and we had to find mentors, and we had to find people that we could learn from and get influenced by and inspired by. And don't get me wrong, we've had role models in the family, and role models are there, but there are also other role models that we look for to stretch and grow from, because they say, right, God's never prophet in his own home. So
that's right.
To your mom or dad too often, as opposed to the guy you're watching on YouTube, for example, who about how to stretch, even though they're saying the same thing, but they just have a different way of communicating the same message. And I guess that's something that really resonated for us. Our backstory is very powerful. I emotionally died. Vas literally died. So
I physically died and came back.
Correct. So when you experience death and you come back, or you experience pain more so, so much so that it's so painful to be in that pain that you can't take it anymore. It makes you want to now say, right, okay, I've got to do something now to make a change, and I'm ready to go in the other direction. Because until that point, it's always an intellectual aspect, and we've been through that ourselves, right? Like my foundation of my entire life, when I say my entire life, I'm talking about my adult life, and helping people, has been based on the fact that I survived a war, right? We were there for the first 45 days of the Iraq war. I saw the kid. I feel that as fresh as yesterday. And I've seen my parents go through having to create, from survival to wanting to protect the family, to make strategic plans, use heart-centered leadership and guide that intuition, and use the brain to navigate, not run it by the brain, but actually use the brain to navigate what the heart would say, decisions, which really taught me as an adult, which I wouldn't have known. But when you sit back and you reflect on these things, you can dissect and really come up with key learnings as to why we do what we do. And the basic principle of everything what Vas was saying earlier is exactly that. If people understand why they do what they do, they will have a better awareness of themselves and understand for what they do. And they'll also end up having understandings for other people, almost like a mini psychologist, because then they get a chance to learn about why other people do what they do. Even if it's frustrating, they'll understand it, so that they don't have to agree with it, but they understand it. And that's what we found our clients to get. That's what we found. So we've been to the point where we've said, okay, we're just going to end it. We've seen, you'll hear Vas talk about her story in a moment, but there's that causing that kind of pain creates change, because people are not guided by their pleasure. They're guided by their pain.
And
everyone.
Can I just add to that? If we do what we've done, we get what we've always gotten.
100%.
We must change what we're doing to be able to create success in love, money, and mindset. You can't stick to old patterns expecting a new life, a new love, a new energy in your business. It all comes back to you. You're the common denominator in every part of your life. You must take responsibility for being that. And if something happens to you, it's how we choose to respond to it. It's hard at the time when the fog, is so thick, and heavy in your heart. But as time progresses, you realize why that happened and what that transformed you into in the now. That's what is.
Yeah, and when you look at this, I'll go back to that part where I was saying, 45 days or what happened during that wartime, where we were looking at evacuating, and it wasn't easy. Like I'd see, we lived right in the heart of Kuwait City, for example. It was a prime area. It was getting attacked. Like you'd have literally, if you have buildings around you, imagine you have the American embassy, the British embassy, the international hotel, now known as a Hilton. All these prime target areas for the Iraqi army to strike. This was right when Iraq had invaded Kuwait, not just before the Gulf War kicked in.
Right.
And we had missiles, Scud missiles flying in left, right, and center in those buildings, and our building would shatter. We shudder. You'd hear the cars at the bottom literally bounce off the ground and fall, and you'd see wheels crack. Like that was the impact of the missiles. And we'd hear that every day, right? I'd hear fireworks, but they were not fireworks. They were gunshots going crazy. Ta, 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 and they're like left, right, center. And if there's this moment of peace in the afternoon and silence, and then all of a sudden there'd be a big bang, right? That's because some car is blowing up nearby, or some idiot was standing with a gun, decided to just misfire, and it ricocheted and it hit someone, and then all of a sudden there was commotion, right? Like people standing in the queue. My dad is standing in a line at the ATM trying to get all his money out, while the rest of them are doing that too. And all of a sudden, one of the amateur soldiers ends up misfiring, and the bullet ricochets and hits one of the guys in the crowd, and that kind of chaos. And so growing up as an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, I've seen that stuff, and I've seen my parents do a few things. Like one thing was always consistent. They were finding clarity. They were constantly looking for ways of how to get out of that situation. They were looking for a clear pattern of what is a route they can take to get out of the country.
They were being resourceful.
Exactly.
Sure.
And trust me, every single time the adults would get together in a neighbor's house and sit down and on a coffee table on the lap, and they kind of discuss what they're going to do, and try and map it out. Someone would barge through the door. Now, I'd notice all this while we were, with kids playing in the bedroom. Well, I'd see someone coming in and saying, guys, we can't go from that route because, cars have been carjacked, that road's blocked, and rumors are that women are being pulled away and raped, and they're even doing that in the apartments now, so we got to be careful. So everyone would disperse and go back into their homes and stay safe. So in that, the one thing he found was a clear route, and he found a way for us to finally get out of there and go to Iraq, literally drive through, and then from Iraq, drive across to Jordan, and then from Jordan, fly out and go back to India to restart our lives. And this is after 35 years of being in Kuwait. So he's built his entire life, all his savings, all gone in a heartbeat, all gone. The only things we could carry with us from Kuwait to India were our clothes of 20 kilos. That's it, each. That's it. So as a kid, I couldn't take my new buggy, my remote control car. I couldn't take my skateboard, my toys. I had like a mountain of Hot Rod cars.
Yeah.
As a kid, you can imagine how shattered I felt.
Sure.
That I couldn't do what I wanted. And part of that remained with me. And that's why I always had this gusto of wanting to have what I want. I want to get what I want now. And I help people to do the same thing. And Vas is on the same journey of his. But he gave clarity. And that's the number one lesson you guys have to learn is take note. You want it. That's the number one thing. Clarity is something that we all seek. And if we really find that clarity, you can achieve what you can go after what you want, and you'll have easy, like what Vas said, it becomes easy for you to find the resource and also feel okay to become resourceful, because the number two thing you need is courage. And that's what my dad had. He trusted a man on a plane when he was coming back from Kuwait, from Iraq to Kuwait. On the plane, a stranger next to him, who's an Iraqi guy, has no idea who he is, says to my dad, look, my wife works with one of the secretary to Saddam Hussein. We'll help you to get out of the country. You're a nice guy. I want to just help you and your family. But I don't know why I'm going to Kuwait. I've been deployed. They haven't told me where I'm going to. But as soon as I finish he was a flight engineer. He was going to fix engines of planes because they were trying to steal them from Kuwait and take them back to Iraq. And he said, I'll finish that, and then I'll contact you. Give me your phone number. My dad had the courage, and he listened to his gut to say, I feel right about this man. I'll give him my phone number. Because he could easily have said, nah, he's Iraqi. I mean, it's because of you guys. We're in trouble right now.
For sure.
Right? He didn't judge. He said, okay. In fact, he made the call. He had courage, and he gave him the number. And that's not it. Courage was continuously going on. I mean, you think about it. Imagine this for a second. You've got a wife, you've got a daughter, you've got a son, and there's no one else that can help you. You got friends, yes, but everyone's trying to find their way out, and you don't have enough money because the only amount of money you could ever take out of the ATM was what you can manage to get to the other side of the world, not city, world.
Right.
And you have to go through the obstacles of a car being blown up, your wife being taken away, your daughter being taken away and raped in front of your eyes, you being murdered or killed, Or even worse, if you've got a choice and an only choice to drive out of a country, not even fly, and you have to pass through a no man's land in a desert where if anything happens and you have to stop, you're gone because you can't even eat sand and be able to survive because there's no shrub in that no man's land.
Sure.
That means you're gone. You're done. And to make it worse, you're getting the only driver whose nationality is Iraqi. So you're getting an Iraqi driver in Kuwait where everyone's against them, who's going to drive you out in a ute. So you got to cram yourself with your wife, your kids, and you got to get across and you got to drive for 11, 12 hours. If anyone has driven past the border of Kuwait to Iraq, you pass Iran. And you see back in the day when the war was on with Iran, you see these walls on the side. Like there's nothing else, but there's this desert on each side and there's one strip, right? And all you see is these walls with massive bullet holes showing you history of what happened during the war. And that's scary. I remember that very vividly.
Wow.
And he had the courage to take us across because all he had was clarity of vision.
And also it's really important, I've found in life, is that people must know their why. Why a relationship? Or why are you doing what you're doing? Why is your business not working? What is why? As we all know, business can be challenging from time to time.
Sure.
And it is sometimes. So it's really, really deeply important that why keeps us going. It gives us momentum and drives us. Physically, because we know what that end result is, and that keeps us going. You know, with love, you know, if you've got that continual pattern and it's the same thing, guess what? You're doing the same thing. So that's why you're creating the same pattern. From long ago, a lot of the time it comes back to childhood. So we're really adults dressed in adult clothing with children indoctrination, you know, child indoctrination, and we bring that into our now reality, and then we wonder why on earth life is repeating itself.
I love this. I love it. Sohan, thank you so much for sharing about your childhood, and you know, that's such a vivid picture, right, of pain, of the threat of dying, right, of just atrocity, right, that your family lived through, and you came out of it on the other side. But like you said, your father first had to have clarity that, hey, this is horrible. I don't want to live in this. I don't want my family in this. So he had to come up with his why. His purpose was, I got to get us out of here, right? And then he looked for that clarity to, hey, let's go. I don't know what it is, but I need to figure out here's my mission. My mission is I've got to remove my family from this horrible situation, right? So we get there, and then Vas, you said, you know, like people go back a lot of times if we're talking about, most of us don't live through wars and things like that, but we go through terrible relationships and bad health and, you know, money problems and all those things, right? So almost everyone can relate to problems with love, money, and mindset, right? So if we're bringing those things from our past, from our childhood, emotional wounds and scars, right? We've had, you know, parents die when we're young, or we've had, you know, just different traumas that we've gone through. How does someone go about changing that, right? Because you're saying that if all we do is say that we're the common denominator and we can go through one relationship after the other, and if we don't heal those emotions, nothing's going to change. What advice do you have for our listeners tonight who they're stuck on that merry-go-round? They have those emotional traumas that they've gone through, and they desperately want to break free. They want to heal that, move on. What advice do you have for our listeners who might be, you know, dealing with that right now?
Yeah, well, I'm probably a great person to speak on this topic because only 36 months ago I myself was dying. So, and the person that I love more than life itself, he never came to my deathbed. Imagine looking at, you know, just looking around you in ICU. Just imagine that for a moment, and you're dying and going through hell, wondering where this man is. It was cold. I was shaking. I was wondering where the hell he was, and he just never came. So I was dying, and you know, just really waiting it out, and you know, listening to my iPod and listening to my motivational music to sort of get my spirit back up. And the well, I had tubes all over. I lost 80 to 90% of my hair. I couldn't stand to walk to talk again, and he never came, but I made it. And I just want you to know that what I learned from that incredible dying experience is self-love, and it's my superpower. Without self-love, we have no love of self. And without that will continue into and disperse itself into every area of our life continuously. So many of us run away from what it is that we're feeling because we're triggered, it's scary, it's too hard. But until we actually feel that emotion and have that can actually hold a space for you to feel, you will never heal from what your past was. You need to heal it, not distract, not run, stop. You have to heal that emotion. And obviously, you can see what you can't. They can see the patterns that are being repeated. So sometimes we do need to get that external help to be able to help us on the internal self, to be able to actually break those patterns. And it's possible. I did it. It's possible. I'm living proof. I just was being abandoned in life. So what did I attract? Abandonment on my deathbed. We're like magnets in life. We attract what our most dominant thought is. So I just want to ask you, what's that for you?
That's really good. So it starts with self-love, right?
Yeah.
And of course you mentioned kind of the law of attraction, right? And whatever we focus on, we get more of, right?
Absolutely.
So if we're focusing on, and you shared you kind of had fear of abandonment issues, right? And when you focus on that fear of abandonment, you're just going to you attract more of it. So what does it look like? How do we get rid of that? Do we just and you said we've got to focus on the emotion, we've got to feel the emotion, and then heal the emotion. Could you talk a little bit more about how we do that? I mean, I know for me personally that it's very easy to not want to deal with negative emotions. It's so much easier to just run away or not think about it or suppress it. So how do we do that? How do we let ourselves feel it, and then two, how do we heal it once we're willing to embrace that negative feeling?
Yeah, sure. Well, what I did as time progressed, I went and saw a psychologist because obviously dying and heartbreak and such severe trauma with the flashbacks of what was happening in death, was overpowering, and it was very difficult for me to sort of live a proper life. I'm normally a bubbly, full life person, but I was a former shell of the person that I once was. When you're crawling on your apartment floor for food, I had no voice. I had no ability to speak. So I was trapped in this body without the ability to speak. So hence why I wrote my book as I was crawling, crying, and dying in ICU, because I never wanted any other woman to go through what it was that I went through. And it was almost like a healing therapy as well in that process. But my genuine advice to you is, after seeing a psychologist for 8 sessions, I said to the psychologist, I don't feel that just speaking about it from the headspace is helping me to clear the heart space. I feel like I'm stuck in that moment in time. I need more. And that was when my search began. I looked for a coach that, had a lot of heart resonance for me. And that was where the journey started to really branch and break open, and those portals just started to flow. And I started to be able to give myself permission to feel it, because I was running away as well. I was having flashbacks. I couldn't step into the hospital doors. Just even the smell of a hospital. I remember the trolley that I was on, going through all the wooden floorboards and going into lifts. And I just remember it all because I was conscious through it all. So not giving myself the ability to feel it kept me trapped in that trauma for so much longer. So my really genuine advice is, find a coach that really has heart resonance, someone you can really connect with on that heart level, somebody you can open up to and be truthful, because if you lie to yourself, you lie to the world. You must be able to take that mask off and really feel what it is that you're feeling. And that coach will be able to actually, the right coach for you will be actually able to guide you through a process to be able to actually start to feel that emotion. And they will guide you step by step on how to do that. Because sometimes it's very difficult for us to just feel the emotion and be okay with it. We need to be guided through a framework that can actually give us the results.
So you mentioned two things. You mentioned kind of the cognitive side of it, and then the emotional side of it. So you know, we've got the heart and we've got the mind, right? And you felt like you were not necessarily able to deal with it cognitively. Is that correct? You felt like it was something that it was a heart issue that had to be dealt with. So if we're talking about healing emotions, you would argue that that's not something that we're going to effectively handle cognitively. Is that right?
Exactly, because I always say, if you're in your head, you're dead. And one of our friends always says that as well. Because in your head, you always think, oh, I'm just going to move forward. I'm just going to forget about it. But then it shows up in road rage. It shows up in your relationship where you're just angry and screaming at your kids. It shows up, and it shows up in the most unexpected places. So we try to keep that volcano down, and we do everything that we can to keep suppressing until it just blows up one day. And you realize exactly what had been bubbling, but you didn't realize until that point. We want to be able to catch it before it gets to that point. We want people to be able to actually stop in their day and actually feel what their body feels. Do you feel discomfort in your chest? Do you feel discomfort in your solar plexus? Are you feeling tension? So many people are disconnected. They're a head without a body. They're not embodied. And that we really want everybody to understand, that we need to be fully embodied. We love another person with our heart, not just with our head. We need to talk to our heart. That's where the feminine lives. That's where the masculine lives. And they can have a beautiful dance together if they're given the opportunity to do so. People need this knowledge because it's powerful. It changes people's lives. And thing, having a love language, knowing your partner's love language, that tremendously, it saved so many marriages. If we cannot speak to our partner the way they best know love, we're just speaking in two totally different languages, and then we're wondering why this relationship is not working.
I love that.
Jake, they can that overflows into work as well. Because the universal law of those love languages are the same for any kind of relationship, whether it's intimate, romantic, or whether it's a professional relationship that's intimate as well, and not necessarily romantic, but it's an intimate relationship where there's emotional connection and people are really wanting to get along and create a culture of a winning atmosphere in a business or a company. And that's possible if people have awareness. It's all about having insights and having clarity, right? We always say that in insights and clarity. Insights and clarity. In the relationship, it's the same thing. Insights and clarity. If you do certain things to progress in a relationship, whether it's at home or at work, you'll get a lot of insights. You'll get data. You'll keep seeing feedback coming from them, what they like, what they don't like, what they get pissed off with, what they don't, right? What they really get excited about. And that gives you insights. But then what you do with those insights is you use that as tools to turn around and say, right, I'm clearer now and I can keep on improvising this relationship per se, whether it's at home or at work.
And the clarity really is in not just knowing all this in the head, because you can have have you been here? You can have the same argument with your partner over and over again. You're not listening. It's so important that we actually make a change. We don't repeating the same pattern, because otherwise you're living the same relationship problem over and over again without the solution. We need to be solution focused and not just problem focused, and we need to be able to step back into love rather than step away from love when we feel hurt.
And speaking of emotions, right, I'll say this. First thing that you got to do, and this is something that everyone should do, like listeners of this show, you guys want to do this. You want to, the first thing you do is you take ownership and responsibility for everything that has happened in your life. Everything. That's a great place to start when you're wanting to deal with emotions from childhood, is you got to be able to learn to take not blame. That's different. We're not,
Mm.
we're talking about being responsible in the sense of saying, if I am able to respond, I will then create my reality. I can create my future. What does that mean? Well, that means everything that has happened in my life has happened unconsciously and consciously, intentionally and unintentionally. All the good things and the bad things, all of them have been caused by me, indirectly or directly. And if I take responsibility for it, sometimes it's hard to do that in the moment, but it's not hard to actually do it overall if we just make a decision to do so. But once you make that decision and you say, right, okay, I take responsibility for everything that's happened in my life. Now I'm in total control and power, because that's what people want. Everyone's after certainty. But see, certainty doesn't go down too well when you want to enjoy life. Because if you want to enjoy life, you can't afford to live with certainty, because then you want everything to be perfect, exactly the way you want it to be. And life doesn't work like that.
It's about progress.
And if you're going to be looking for perfection over progression, then you'll get exactly that. You'll get disappointment, because perfection, everyone should jot this down, is the lowest standard of mediocrity. In fact, lowest standard, period. And lowest standard is mediocrity. And now if you take mediocrity, it is the lowest standard of mediocrity in itself. So what if on one end it's contradictory, isn't it? I mean, there's an inner conflict. Now we want to be amazing, abundant life. We want to move forward, but then we're holding back because we're trying to be just mediocre. And if you want to have an extraordinary life where you want to get past those emotions, or not even those, get past them, but just move forward in the direction where you can't change history, you got to be able to rewrite your future, in the sense that you got to look at it from a lens of pure responsibility and acceptance of what happened. That's the hard pill to swallow. And that can't be done alone, which is why Vas is saying, get a coach, because try standing up for a second and try kicking yourself in the rear. It won't hurt as bad. It won't hurt someone else giving you that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Accountable to, you know what I mean? And that's what a coach is. It gives you that ability to be accountable, because otherwise, if you're given certain tasks that need to be finished by a certain date, or you're left with knowing that that coach is going to catch up with you and ask you if that's been done. So you're not just sort of going through life on that daily basis with whatever happens. There's a routine, there's a structure, there's a framework, and you've got to follow that to be able to actually get to the other side. And as we all know, each new level of our life requires a different, higher conscious version of who we are. Yep. We can't get to that level with the same thinking that got us to where we are now. Tomorrow's a new day, new level, new level of consciousness, new ability to be able to connect, new ability to be able to take accountability and responsibility. Because without that, as I said, it's going to be the same old, same old. You're going to be stuck where you are.
You guys are, first off, thank you. You guys are absolutely bringing the fire. I knew your vibe was amazing. I've seen your videos. I love you guys, right? I love your vibe, but the tangible content that you're bringing, the actual real advice that you're bringing to our listeners here tonight is just absolutely mind-blowing and absolutely transformational. I love it. I love what you're bringing. I want to dig in. I want to go back just a little bit to a couple of things, because you put so much great stuff on the table there. And Sohan, I love what you're saying about, you kind of delineated the fact that we cannot control everything that happens, especially when we're kids. Things that other people do to us, or things that our parents do, or whatever it may be. We cannot control that. However, you delineated between blame and responsibility, right? So yes, maybe our parents did something to us that we or could not control. That was not our fault. We do not take blame for it. But what you suggested was, instead of worrying about blame, let's take responsibility. Because whether we cause it or something, an external factor causes it, then we take responsibility for everything that has ever happened to us. Then we're no longer a victim, but now we're empowered, and we're in a position to move into a newer state of consciousness, and we can move on and live that life that we know we're supposed to be living.
Yep.
Exactly.
100%.
By taking accountability, it neutralizes your life. So it gives you that clean, fresh slate to be able to start again and understand that it's happened and we must move forward. We must feel it to heal it, but there's neutralization that happens. And that's where the gold is, because then you can move and start afresh and create that new blueprint for the life that you want to create. You're now in control. And that's really where the power is. And that's where success comes from. That's where real love comes from. If you just continue in your life to be able to hold back and hold back and hold back and layer upon layer upon layer, you're not going to be able to feel love from a woman or a man, because you're going to be guarded. And when you're guarded from the things that have happened to you, or resentment or hate, you're guarded from love. It doesn't allow one thing in. It's everything. So when you peel back those layers and open your heart, it's really where your life opens up, because that's the only way to be able to connect in life. And that, your kids, that includes, with your partner, that includes with your business partners. Life is one to be lived and one of connection from the heart, because just the head alone is tactic. The heart is where the depth and the substance really lives.
I love that so much. And I want to go back because, sometimes I think, I'm very introspective, and, a lot of my friends, and, that, I guess that's how you and I, the two of you and I kind of hooked up, right? I mean, we're on this journey of self-improvement. We want to improve ourselves and improve lives for other people, right? So that's kind of my goal here with Onward, is just to help people improve their lives. But there are a lot of people who are just kind of stuck, right? And they know they wake up in the morning, the alarm goes off, and they're like, oh God, I gotta do this job that I hate, and I gotta pay these bills, and they're just stuck, right? But Vas, earlier you said, you talked a little bit about the fact that people kind of store these emotions in our body, right? And I don't know if you've read any of Joe Dispenza's work or not, but in his new book, Becoming Supernatural, there's a story. I think Jenny is a case study, and she has a tragedy that occurs in her life, and there's no other real physical reason for her body to deteriorate, but she goes through these tremendous physical difficulties, all these horrible things that happen to her body. That was all what a psychologist might call psychosomatic. It just happened as a result of her emotions, right? So you would argue that we have these physical manifestations from maybe suppressed emotions. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. Yep. In the book, Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life was such a breakthrough book for me personally, because every emotion is linked to an organ. For example, I had I've never drank, never smoked, lived a healthy life, but I had a lot of relationship stress. The liver is linked to withholding anger. My voice completely shut down and stopped, and that was basically, the lungs represent grief. So yes, dis-ease in the body forms disease in the body.
I was chuckling a little bit while you mentioned that, because I was actually on a walk with my girlfriend this afternoon, and we're on this path together in life, right? And she has her own show, and I have my show, and we're just all about bringing life transformation to people, right? And we kind of have slightly different shows, and she does different things, but we're having that exact conversation about the body and the different holding suppressed emotions in our body, right? And we're talking about how to heal that and how to get past that. And you're recommending and suggesting that maybe people have a coach, and the coach could kind of help identify those things, because like you said, you've got to feel before you can heal, and we know that we want to be so much more conscious and living a new us, right? And how would you, and we also do know that something like 90% of what we do every day is unconscious programming, right? It's like the computer, it's just running in the background, and we tend to eat today what we ate yesterday and last week, because it just simplifies things for right. So if someone's just coming into that awareness right now, like they're like, oh my gosh, like I've got all these things and I've got all these coding and these programs, how do they go about beginning to change that? And I know we've got to begin with getting some clarity. We've got to have some courage, and we've got to feel those emotions before we can heal those emotions. What do we do next? I mean, how do we start living more consciously instead of just letting our life overwhelmingly run in subconscious programming? How do we do that? How do we begin to make those changes?
My first and foremost thing that I learned on my deathbed, my epiphany, and I think it will forever be, is self-love. If we can't love ourselves, we do not really have the capacity to be able to love others, because we're running on that draining obligation of energy rather than the overflow. So we haven't got anything to give to anybody else. First things first, start with yourself. Move your body. Get your state changed. If you don't move your body, stagnant body produces a stagnant mind. Really important to get your body moving, because that in itself will release the endorphins and will make you feel better energetically and physically to get the day started. We do a lot of lemon water in the morning, hot water with lemon, and we have our celery juice about 20 minutes later as well. And we find that really is a great liver cleanser, the water. So it's the rituals and routines. You can step outside, do some earthing, remove your shoes and socks, place your feet, the soles of your feet onto the ground. The earth just has so much electricity and power. That can just empower you to be able to actually get through that day. Know your why. Do your journaling. Listen to motivational podcasts. Fill your mind with what you want rather than what you don't want. What's your goal? Your purpose? What's your mission? And keep taking those little steps each day. Start with moving your body. Start with priming. Start with some nature. Do some walking. Jump on an indoor trampoline. To feel yourself. And another thing, eat as much as possible high vibrational foods, because that's the high vibe and the energy. That's what really saved my life. As a world survivor, no one had ever lived through what I lived through. I was nursing a broken heart and dying. Imagine that, all alone. Man, that never came. I listened to my motivational music. I did what I could in bed. I moved even just my hands if that's all I could move. I still did my self-care routine to the degree that I could. I wrote a book. Because I never wanted anyone else to go through what I went through. And it gives people the 7 ultimate secrets to real love success, because real love starts with loving you. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. Provide yourself with that self-care so you've got the strength and the energy to live, love, money, and mindset with so much success, so much vibrant energy, so much, soul fulfillment. You can live, you can exist, or you can live. You choose.
I love it. Choose to live. That's
Yes.
Yeah, you go. Yeah.
That's what it's all about, right? Choosing to live, and this whole show, that's exactly it. I want people to choose to live. For myself, I'm trying to learn it more and more every day, right? Like, how do I go from just allowing those subconscious programs to just run in the background and say, hey, no, I'm going to get up and I'm going to live consciously. I'm going to live with intention. And I love that you brought it comes back to self-care, right? Because way too often we oversimplify, and I know you guys I'm not as familiar with the Australian culture, but I am very familiar with the American culture, and at least half of all Americans are trying to lose weight. They're trying to diet and all that kind of stuff, right? And though I get it, again, the girlfriend and I were talking about this walking yesterday. It's really not just about like losing weight, right? It's not about like, there are a lot of people with the wrong idea, and they think, if I could just take this pill, here's this purple pill, take the pill and you'll and take it every day and you'll be the exact weight you want. You can still eat pizza and burgers and tacos and whatever crap you want. But that's not living, right? People are not if that's their goal, then they've got the wrong goal. They've got to change their goal. They've got to change their intention, because that's not living, right? It's when we go back to that self-care and we begin to realize that, hey, and that's actually what my girlfriend show is all about, is health and wellness, and she does a lot on self-care as well, right? So So when we learn to put the proper things in our body, and we're drinking the lemon water, and we're drinking the celery juice, and one thing, and so she talks a lot about healthy eating, and I've read tons in my life. Actually, at one point, I told you guys pre-show that I'm a history teacher, but I've also taught health as well.
Right.
And I'm not a huge believer in Western medicine. I just think, right? I just think foods are medicine, right? I mean, it's Hippocrates told us ages ago, right? Let food be thy medicine, and so that's one thing you said to me was, or said a little bit earlier, or one word you used was, you said high frequency foods. Now, I've read Penny Pierce's book Frequency, right? And I understand that, when if we want to, we attract, Joe Dispenza talks about this, that we attract what our energy level is, right? So if we want love, and love vibrates at a higher frequency than shame and guilt and despair, which are very low frequency things. So as much as the girlfriend does all this healthy living stuff, I love it. I love what she does, and she's teaching such good stuff. But I love, one thing we haven't talked about or discussed yet is this high frequency food concept. I love it, because I'm very much with you guys, and in line with that. Our frequency really drives what happens to us, right? Could you talk a little bit more about what you mean by high frequency foods?
Yeah, I sure can. Well, if we really take a deep dive into thinking about food, the food we eat literally becomes us. It becomes the blood and everything else in our body.
Yep.
So what we're placing into our mouth and into our mind literally becomes us. It's not just about food alone, but what are you placing and allowing? What garden are you allowing to grow? Is it a garden or is it weeds? That's also internally affecting you to create ease or dis-ease.
Yep.
So which is it for you? High frequency foods saved my life. Take, for example, hospital foods. The doctors were coming in and saying, well, Vas, I don't think you really know how sick you are. I've been psychic since birth as well. So I said, no, I'm dying, and I understand that. I know you want me to eat meat, but I haven't eaten meat in 25 years.
Wow.
I got my coconut water, fresh coconut water delivered. I had friends bring it in. Family members brought in fresh salads, you name it, all high vibration, all raw, because obviously we know when it's cooked down, you lose a lot of nutrients.
Yep.
So you eat it in its most raw state. And I like produce and fresh fruits and vegetables and colors, and it just gave me life, literally. So I really feel that was a huge part to saving my life. You got to follow what you feel. And, when it's raw, it gives you energy. If you put the wrong petrol in a car, you get not a fantastic outcome. The car stops. The body's the same.
Sure.
So what you eat and what you feed it matters.
Yep.
What are you putting in? What are you putting into your body, into your stomach? It's not just stomach alone. It's head, heart, and belly, So it's really important.
I love that so much. And I mean, if all people hear is about your story, that you were on your deathbed, you were dying, and you're directly attributing the fact that you're sitting with us here tonight, sharing your story. You look super healthy and vibrant, and both of you look great here. Right? But you're attributing this to the high frequency foods.
Yep.
Exactly, because
saved your life.
Has everything. Take, for example, a celery, a stick that looks like a bone, doesn't it? So it's great for your bones. If you look at a walnut, that looks like a brain, so it's good for your brain. If you cut open a tomato or the chambers of a grapefruit, it looks like the chambers of the heart. So Mother Nature has everything for us. Yeah, we choose the dead food in the dead aisles instead of the fresh food that's going to give us life and gain life.
It's so good. I love it so much. I knew you guys were going to bring great stuff tonight. I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know we were going to get into talking about high frequency foods and whatnot, but this is truly life-changing transformational stuff. So, I mean, if someone out there and you're struggling just with your health, I mean, we can get into some other things, but if you're just struggling with your health, and you hear this message, I mean, guys, look into this stuff. This stuff is truly transformational, not only life-changing, but life-saving if you hear this message. So
I'm just going to leap in, and I'm going to say this. Permission to speak freely?
Please do, sir.
Okay. Listen, people. I am totally pro-choice. We are completely pro-choice. But we're going to tell you one thing for sure. When you eat meat, you're eating fear food.
Exactly.
Okay? You're eating fear food. I'm coming close up and saying this to your face, and it's up to you. You can do what you want with it. I'm not saying don't do, I'm not here to tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do, but I'm going to lay some facts and tell you that we're truth tellers. So we'll tell you the truth. I used to eat meat in my life for a very long time, almost all my life, until I realized that I needed to raise my vibration. I mean, I'm an excited guy, energetic guy. Jake, you've known me for a while now,
Yep.
And my energy levels haven't really been low ever since even when you, and they've never been if you ask anyone in my life. But there's a difference. There's a difference when you have high vibrational foods versus fear-based foods in the energy level. So if your energy, this is normal and this is super high, and that's where I was. After I transitioned from meat to vegetarian only, my super high went to extraordinarily high, optimally high energy. What does that mean? That means that every time you eat any kind of fear-based food, because those animals at the time of sacrifice or death are suffering because they're dying in fear, that stays in their blood, which then gets transferred over to us because we eat that. Especially people who enjoy eating, on barbecues come summer, they love their meat being rare or medium rare and things like that. That's certainly dangerous because you're just absolutely transposing that fear into your body, into your blood. And if anyone goes into the rabbit hole of understanding epigenetics, they'll understand how this transfers and how these switches can instantly shift. Epigenetic is like a switch over the gene. The gene expression won't change, but the switch controls the expression of the gene. Typically, if you're wondering what that means, if you've ever had a cat walk into the room and you started sneezing and then the cat left the room and then you stopped sneezing, that's the switch. That's your epigenetic controlling your gene expression. And that switch comes on and you start sneezing. Cat leaves, switch goes off, and you call it allergy. Well, guess what? That's exactly what happens when you have fear-based food allowed into your bloodstream. And then you wonder why you have diseases. You wonder why you have a body that is actually suffering. You wonder why you have emotional stress.
Wonder why
emotional stress.
Fear.
Right?
Fear. So many of us live in fear all of our lives. Do you wonder where that root is?
That comes from
It's so important that we hydrate with fresh, clean drinking water, not just, grab a Coke or, what are you drinking? Sugar lights up the same parts as cocaine in our brain. People have to be aware and choose food consciously, sit down, chew that food correctly, and don't scroll on your phone and, eat consciously, because then you know what you're eating. Weight just drops off as well. It's an ongoing weight battle because you're eating high vibrational food that's healthy. You can eat more of it and you don't gain weight. I've been the same weight most of my life.
Absolutely.
6 to 8. So I'm 45 now.
Yep.
So, it's living proof. The energy we put in is the energy we have to be able to give out and serve. But it starts with us. We've got to be our own beacon.
I'll tell you what, my body looks better now than it ever looked before when I was in the gym 16 or 18, right? And I don't even as regularly I used to as at the age of 16 and 18, and I was shredded then, but now this is a different shred. This is this body. I'm in love with this body because it's so good, and I'm 42, right? So we're 45, 42. We love our bodies now than we loved it before. And there's something to say when someone says, for a woman especially, if she says that she's been a size 8 all her life, it's not because she was lucky. It wasn't because she was lucky. Well, if you want to call it luck, it was based on hard work, right? She worked every single day of her life to continue to want to live like that and conscious. It's a choice. And this is another thing. when you're making changes in life and you wanted to make an emotional shift and you want to move away from, you asked a really good question earlier about how this entire conversation is about how do you really move forward? How do you move onwards? Well, you got to learn to stop living with the past behavioral pattern. You got to stop living with the habits of the past, right, Jake? I mean, if people continue doing the same thing over and over again, at some point they're going to go crazy. They're going to go insane because they're not getting the result they wanted. And every human being, all of us, are only as good as our last effort. Let me repeat that. All of us are as good as our last effort. What does that mean? That means that now I have to create a new habit or find a new way or improvise that new habit that I've started to be better for today and for tomorrow.
And by doing that, you need to change your environment.
Correct.
You can't buy cakes and chocolate and everything in the pantry and expect to lose weight. You got to fill your fridge with fresh fruit and vegetables, the nuts. Be prepared, because when that strikes, you can grab a banana, you can grab a handful of nuts. There's so much choice. You don't have to miss out on meat per se. There's brands in Australia called Corn, which are amazing. You can still have your mincemeat and your tacos, but instead of a taco, you can use a lettuce leaf. And you can have vegetables as well as the beautiful meat sauce.
Or sometimes we'll make burgers, right? Like we'll have a big mushroom and then we'll just have that as a bread.
Yeah, and then we layer that.
Don't get me wrong. I love having chocolate more than she loves having chocolate, right? I do. But we're smart about that as well. Sometimes we'll cheat, but majority of the time, because what's important to understand is there are new habits created and there are old habits that need to die. And while that happens, there are times where we'll get off the horse and we got to get back on the horse. And that's called being human. That's the human experience while our spirits are living in this environment.
It's about 20, 80% eating well, and then the 20% give or take, but it's about 80% eating clean,
and that's
eating
progression.
Well, and the 20% is the exercise. So many people think it's rocket science to lose weight and keep it off. It's not. Hydrate well, eat more living food. Don't eat fear food, because fear food provides you with the internal weight. People that it's the emotional weight you're eating. Yeah.
People say I'll continue eating seafood. That's not fear-based. Here's the funny
anything
thing.
that's got eyes on
I'll tell you what,
the
most fearful thing to see is to watch a fish, come out on the hook and really struggle till it dies. Till it's out of its environment. So it's a really cool environment it's a really cool topic that we can go on for hours.
You guys are bringing me back to a documentary I watched several years back, Forks Over Knives. Are you familiar with the documentary? The quote you said, if it has eyes or nose and mouth, mom and dad, whatever, don't eat it. That's the quote from that movie or from that documentary.
Right.
So I love what you guys are sharing here tonight. One word that you just said that I think could help people a whole lot, and I love the idea of eating high frequency foods. And one recommendation I would like to make to our listeners tonight is it's not in your own life every day. Don't look at it so much as all or nothing, right? So sometimes people feel like I've got to exercise every day, or I'm not a runner and I got to start running 7 days a week, or I ate this horrible American diet and all of a sudden I got to go clean raw vegan, right? And I don't know. I don't think people are going to find a lot of success if they just go all in 100%. And so I like to encourage people that the more high frequency foods you can eat, the better you're going to improve your life. And to what extent you want to take that, well, I guess self-awareness comes in a little bit into play there, right?
Absolutely. You'll feel better. Your energy will, you'll vibrate at a different frequency. Maybe swap 2 meals a week to something vegetarian.
Right.
You just start slow and see how your body feels with that. It's all up to you. It's your body. But at the end of the day, you're going to feel different, which is going to make you want to do whatever you're doing on those days, do it more often.
When I stopped eating sugar, I remember the way I did it, to your point, Jake, was I used to have 2 spoons of sugar in my coffee. And I remember this was right up till 2006. And I remember I wanted to give up having sugar. And before I did that, I was like, man, this coffee won't taste great. without the sugar because it was just too bitter. And I was going, no, this doesn't, but I've got to do it because that sugar's not good. It's not good. And so the way I went about it was, instead of just cutting it off, I literally went quarter of a spoon for 1 week less. And then the following week, the second week, it was another quarter. So that was half done. And then the third week, I went another quarter down. And then the fourth week, I went a quarter. So by then, I was done with the entire 2 spoons.
And now he doesn't
and
drink
in
coffee
1 month,
either.
I was done with having sugar.
Drank coffee.
And that's 2006. So it's what, 2020. So we're talking 14 years, never needed it, never wanted it, don't like it anymore, never. And I still continue drinking coffee. And then I quit coffee last year. And that was complete, it was done. It wasn't a gradually do it. It was a decision made. I committed to it and I resolved to make it happen. And that's the 3 words that people need to remember. You got to make a decision. You got to commit to that decision, and you got to live by that commitment. And then you want to be able to resolve everything you can possibly do to keep on staying on path of that commitment. And yeah, sometimes you'll slip up, and that's okay. Again, like I said, it's human experience, but it allows you to, if you can accept that you will fall off the horse and that you can get back on the horse, then you won't be so hard on yourself and you'll be okay. And it's an assurance that you'll be able to get there, but people do. And then when they do, man, it's thumbs up. It's thumbs up all the way. And it doesn't allow people to feel the this or the that. It allows people to go, yeah, I've got a decision. I've made a decision, and I will continue to, and I will resolve. True in their heart, they'll continue to resolve. And yes, they'll slip up, but when they slip up, they own it, they get back on the horse and they carry back on. And that's what you said earlier. If 9 out of 10 times your eating choices are healthy, that's cool. You're in the right track, because at some point you'll go 10 out of 10. It'll make it happen. But your chances of suffering will dramatically drop, dramatically reduce, because now you've made a decision to go 9 out of 10 good choices as opposed to the other way around.
And the next step would be financial success. Success leads. Yep. Don't reinvent the wheel. Model someone who's doing what you want to do or are doing. Yep. It's no use in trying your hardest to try and reinvent this wheel that was invented long ago. And that brings us on to this subject.
Well, I don't know.
It's up to the man.
So we're talking. I mean, you guys are all about love, money, and mindset, right? And
in Hindi, we say Lakshmi, goddess Lakshmi. You know why? Because goddess Lakshmi is all about in the Hindu mythology. Goddess Lakshmi is the symbolism of money and wealth. So it's interesting. Ever since she's come into my life, money has just been growing on trees.
Money growing on trees. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to transition to money just momentarily, but I just want to bridge it with one word that you've kind of been talking about, whether it's your health, whether it's your relationships, whether it's healing your emotions. I think what you've kind of identified is a lot of it comes down to your habits and how do you change your habits, right? And I think that's where the mindset comes in, that if we understand that what we've been doing doesn't work, right? Whether it's relationships or our health or our money, if where you are is not working for you, we've got to create a shift in our mindset. And right. And I think that's done through habits. And Sohan, jump in and share what you got with that.
I've been busting to say this from the moment you open your mouth about that. It's so true. You're right. You're spot on with that. Here's the thing that the listeners want to listen, right? They got to learn and they got to decide to divorce all their bad habits today,
divorce the
right
old
now.
Story. Marry the new one.
Marry the new habits.
Yes.
The old habits are like weeds in the garden. If you allow your weeds to go in the garden, you're going to end up, killing all your flowers. So the only option you have is to kill the weeds. There's no, we'll take care of them slowly and get rid of them slowly. No. You got to get in there and you got to rip them out of the root once and for all, so that you can have a fresh garden that you can create whatever you want to create. That's right. And that's what bad habits do. So when I say bad habits, we don't mean bad habits that are like, we're not talking about drugs and alcohol. We're talking about certain habits that do not serve us anymore. We're talking about behavioral patterns that do not help us anymore to get the result we want. For example, if you had certain habits that took you about, give or take about 4 years, 3-4 years in today's day and age to get from, say, $70,000 worth of pay to about $100,000, over a year's time, those habits are only as great as they are till you get to that $100,000 mark. Now, if you want to make $250,000 in a year, you're not going to be able to use the same habits. You're going to have to you're going to have to divorce those, and you're going to have to form and marry the ones that are going to take you to that $250,000.
For example,
right?
You can't just continue to trade time for money and expect those incredible results. You want to be able to throw in lifestyle. Life is short, as you saw with my story. You know, you want to be able to spend time with your kids. You want to be able to live the lifestyle that you want, as well as make incredible amounts of success, money, love, money, and mindset. You can have it all. Because it's a myth that you can't.
Because here's the thing. I mean, how do you condition yourself? Well, the reality is, Jake, I mean, the difference between someone who's mighty, wildly successful and someone who's not is their habits. It's their set of habits. That's all it is. I mean, we've all got the same amount. They're breathing the same air and they're eating the same foods as we are. They're living in they're living on the same planet as we are. They're still going through the restrictions of COVID as much as we are. What's the difference? What's the key difference? Well, they've got certain habits that help them to sustain and continue to grow.
That's right.
What Vas was alluding to earlier about, you know, we have lemon water in the morning and we have celery juice on the back of that, and we exercise. These are conditioned habits. These are habits that condition us to keep progressing. Now, the day those don't serve us, do you think we're going to continue with those? Hell no. We'll find something new to improve. We're going to upgrade. Upgrading our skills. Everyone's so busy upgrading their phones and their computers that they're completely forgotten to upgrade themselves, right? And upgrading ourselves does not necessarily mean just simply listening to audios and listening to podcasts and watching motivational TV or going to seminars. It's really about implementation. Exactly. It's about action. It's about the guys who have knowledge and they implement that. So one big thing we're on is, I learned this from one of our mentors, and he taught us it's called SOI, right? Speed of implementation.
And
it's a powerful thing. The moment you learn it, you implement it. You don't wait, you take action. Again, why? Because those who keep waiting till everything's ready and prepared and perfect, they'll end up being in a mediocre state. They won't be in the state of high performance. But the moment you get an idea, you take action, you progress, you get results, you get feedback from the action you've taken. Therefore, that feedback allows you to either grow or shrink. Most likely, it'll allow you to grow if you've got the right headspace for it and the right heart space for it.
Yeah, imperfect action, progress. You know, it's so important that we 100%. Take that imperfect action, and we're selective, and we have a framework to follow to that success, so we can be consistent in the tasks that we need to do to give us the result, rather than being consistent with things that are not going to produce the result.
It's got to be conditioned every single day. The new habits have to be performed every single day consistently. It's a muscle that's built. And the moment that's conditioned, then now you have a recondition or a reprogramming. People can get rid of their old habits and have a void, right? Like we can, one that we specialize is in having a pattern interrupt someone and break their old pattern in a heartbeat. No problem. That's done. But now they have a void because they feel it. They go, okay, that's gone. What do I do now? They've got to replace that void with a new habit. And then when they replace it, it has to be considered, it has to be followed through every single day.
Repetition is the mother of all skill.
Correct. And it allows people to condition themselves. Reconditioning, reprogramming is akin to success. Absolutely important. So, yeah.
So the thing, you know, we're talking the theme habits right now, right? And we got to get rid of the old habits that don't serve us. And we know that eating certain foods, smoking cigarettes, doing drugs, alcohol, all the people clearly understand those things are not going to move them in the direction that they want. But a lot of people do wrestle with, okay, I want to stop drinking, I want to stop smoking, I want to stop eating poorly. And they wrestle with that. So you're saying an effective way to change your habits is you've got to not only pattern interrupt and remove those old habits, but you've also got to bring in new habits, and essentially you're replacing the old habit with the new habit. Is that what you're saying?
100%.
And with repetition, so for example, the first thing in the morning, you're not going to be listening to the news. First thing in the morning, you're going to be listening to a podcast, which is motivational, which is going to get you into the frame of mind to be able to see the day head on. So what we feed our mind produces the energy, which then produces the outcome or not.
Here's a great example of setting up another example, what people can actually start doing immediately, right? One of the things they can do is you guys can start, ask yourself this question. If you had your most confident version of yourself standing right next to you, and that was best of the best version of you, your confident, your courageous self, right? that Braveheart standing right there next to you.
Mhm.
He or she was asked the question, how would you describe yourself in 3 words? That person, how would that person describe themselves in 3 words?
Mhm.
Whatever those 3 words are, you write them down, put them in your phone in the alarm, set an alarm, and have that alarm label as those 3 words, and set that alarm for 2 times or 3 times a day, in the morning, afternoon, and in the evening. And let that alarm go off and let it remind you every single day. And all you got to do is you got to live by those 3 words. Your actions have to be. If you're doing anything that is not aligned to those 3 words, you stop doing it and you get back on track, get back on the horse, right? And you start using those 3 words. Now, if you had that every day for the rest of your life, till it served you, till those 3 words served you before you have to upgrade again, man, you get there. That's conditioning, because now, it's like advertising. You got to advertise to yourself the new habits. It's like TV advertising. Right now in the world with this pandemic, we've been advertised, we've been brainwashed with constant bombarding of how masks going to save us from not getting infected. So what are people doing? They're conditioned, so they believe in it because it's so repetitive. It must be true. And where is it? It's not just playing on TV. It's playing on radio when they're driving the car. It's playing not just on radio when they go into a supermarket, when they're shopping with their trolley. They're hearing that in the background. Ladies and gentlemen, please be careful. Please be mindful and be. There's this constant bombarding of subliminal messaging, of advertising, of a message. Well, we've got to start advertising to ourselves now with these new habits, right? Because advertising works.
And another amazing mentor of ours called Joel Bauer, he does something called a dream card, which you'll be able to.
Oh, absolutely powerful.
Which will be extremely powerful for your listeners if they actually want to implement and have something called a dream card in their wallet. So if they go to reach for, those fries or whatever the case may be, and it's a continual habit, they take out this dream card, and that's got basically pictures of what it is that you want to make.
Yeah, so it's a really cool thing. Like, we talk about
a business card.
Yeah, we talk about vision boards, right? We speak about vision boards and dream boards, etc. So people have that, and a lot of people have that in their homes. In fact, people listening to this right now, you guys will have it too. But a really cool thing about a dream card is because it's so tiny and it's the size of a credit card or a business card. It has 2 sides, and one of the things he teaches is about having 2 sides with the same images. With the same theme, not the same images. One side you have images representing those themes of people that that you look up to in your real life, right? And you might know them personally, or you may not. You may know them from a distance, but you want to have the pictures of them because they symbolize that. So, for example, one of the categories is wealth. So, who do you look up to in your world for wealth? So you have that image. So you have pictures like, if it's relationship, who do you look up to in your life who you would love to have a relationship like them? So you have a picture of them, and that way you have those 5 categories and those 5 images on one side. On the other side is the same category, but you're going to have an image of what you would love yourself to be. What is your vision? What do you want to see it like? So find an image that matches that, and then you have that match those same categories. So basically now you have 2 sides. One reminds you of the mentors or role models that you want to aspire to be, and the other side reminds you of exactly what you want to create and manifest and build in your life, right? So it's a real thing, and what it means is this. What's the idea of having it so tiny? Well, imagine you're sitting in a restaurant, and you're looking at the menu and you're choosing. You're going, oh my gosh, what do I want to have? And of course, there's some amazing things there, right? You might see a pasta, or you might see a lasagna, or something like that, or a pizza. And if you have that card in your pocket, you just literally can pull it out, keep it right under or right on top of the menu. And now you have that reminding you when you're looking at health and you've got a chiseled body, right? For example, or an athletic body right there. Or on the flip side, you've seen that person, maybe it's your Aunt Jenny, and you're seeing Aunt Jenny as sexy as she looks at the age of 67. Now you make the right choice. It sends signals to the brain to be conscious. Now it's a choice, right? It's a pure choice, and it's discipline. Are you going to choose to want to cheat? Or are you going to choose to commit to what you said you decided to commit to?
And we know that the mind moves in pictures.
Yeah.
Very powerful because they create, they create an energy and they create an emotion. So having picture form, that's why vision boards really work. Really, really powerful. And with this, you can just carry it around with you. It's a constant reminder.
Yeah. So Joel really created it. There's no doubt why Joel is Joel. Mental.
I want to point out one thing about that. And earlier we were talking about changing that subconscious or unconscious programming. And we said that about 90% of what we do is unconscious programming. And from my own personal study, what I've found out is exactly what you're saying is correct, that the unconscious mind thinks in terms of pictures, right? So if there are things that you're wanting to change about maybe your weight or your body or your money, pictures are extremely important. So I've studied some of the work of a guy by the name of John Gabriel, who talks about changing your body and your health, and he uses visualization using mental pictures. So that's exactly in line with what you guys are talking about right there. So I love that.
Yeah, and you know what? As far as the pictures are concerned, it's people have to look at this and face the truth. It's not about being positive when you're doing this, right? We speak about this all the time. It's not positive thinking. It's being truthful. I mean, you can go in the direction of, you can have a picture of the sunrise, and you're going in the direction of you're going the wrong direction. Being positive to look at that sunrise, it ain't gonna happen. No matter how much you look at the picture, it ain't gonna happen. And you're wondering why it's not happening. You got the picture. You did all the right things. You did what Jake said. You did what Sohan and Vas said. Why am I not seeing the sunset? You guys said I'll get it. I got the picture too. Well, if you're going the wrong direction, you ain't going to see the sunset. So let's face the truth. Your positive thinking is not going to help. So face the truth. The truth is, what is the feeling that you want to get as a result of seeing that sunrise?
Exactly.
Because it's that feeling, that emotion, that very emotion is what you're after at the end of the day. Because you're not going to take your Ferrari. You're not going to take your Bitcoin. You're not going to take any of that you're creating. You're not going to take the schools that you're building for the kids in Africa to your grave. Yeah? It's what you feel at the end of the day when you've created that legacy, or you've left behind that legacy, or you've bought that material thing, or you've done
got that
work.
wealth.
Correct.
It's the feeling that's behind
So the symbolism and the image has to match feeling, not so much that actual tangible thing. That's important too. So you want to have that. Would really want to have that symbol of the feeling that represents that, or that symbol that represents that feeling. That will get you there. Like, it's like fast track. Well, the fast way to get there, don't just have a picture of a chiseled body. Get the picture of the feeling that it represents.
So
that's what will get.
I'm totally with you guys on that. I want to dig into it a little bit more, right? Joe Dispenza actually talks about mental movies, right? So we're taking pictures to another level, right? A mental movie, and you're seeing exactly what you want to play out in your life. And I understand the absolute importance of two things: one, having a clear intention, clarity on exactly what you want, and two, coupling that with exactly what you're saying, elevated emotion. Now, a question, and I've had this discussion with quite a few people, sometimes on the show, many times off. One question that I get from people that I would like some clarity from you guys on is, if you have not experienced, so like, let's say someone who has maybe had a lack mindset for much of their life, right? And they know they want money, and they know they need more money and all those things. And they may have a picture of a house or a car, but how does, so the question I've had from people several times is, how do I achieve that elevated emotion to go with something that I have yet to experience? Could you talk on that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, the perfect picture, if you really want to create a perfect picture, even though we spoke about before, perfection being the lowest form of mediocrity, but let's say you wanted to have the perfect picture. Where can you find this in this world? Well, you can find that in your imagination, right? No shit, Sherlock. Okay, so if you find that in your imagination, well then, can you create an emotion that's attached to that imagination? Because the reality is, our thoughts are comprised of words and sentences. And these words and sentences, as we humans have grown up, we have learned and conditioned to attach meanings to these words and sentences, whatever language you may have learned them in. And these meanings have emotions that are attached to them. So just like being poor and broke might create a certain meaning in the head, which then leaves back, it could be a meaning where someone's felt dejected or felt like they were underprivileged, and therefore they felt sad, because that's a learned behavior. Every emotion is a learned behavior. That's really important for people to get. Now, if you understand that and you accept that, well, then that means you can look at the other learned emotion that you have learned attached to a different meaning. For example, you get excited if you won $10,000 in the bank account. Okay, the next point. Well, what is that emotion that you can keep on practicing and on repeat constantly? Again, it's conditioning. Going to the gym, doing the same workout over and over will build that muscle. So if you could keep practicing that in your imagination every morning, every night, or anytime during the day when you're by yourself, you could literally rehearse it to its perfection, because in the imagination, nothing can go wrong. Not a scratch on your marble floor. So if that's the case, if that makes you feel great, what if you could just repeat that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, so much so that the once upon a time unfamiliar emotion now becomes so familiar that it becomes second to nature, that you could just bring it whenever you want. You can bring it on whenever you want.
I want to share a quick story. When I was obviously dying, I was still having to take care of, well, you'll hear my voice. I go from Marilyn Monroe to Marge Simpson in the sound. And it's all good. You can feel my energy. And that's
I love it.
What I actually found was that I was ringing on my deathbed to make sure that my bills were paid, because I like to be on time, and I had no one to really rely on. So, here I was stressing about money and, wondering, how they're even going to hear me do that. But as time progressed and I got better, obviously I was crawling on my apartment floor. What I actually did was to give myself the ability to give myself the strength to know that I could obviously earn the money and it's coming, was I bought fake money from a $2 shop, and I put it on a beautiful little platter, and I see it, and it's still there every day. And I've created wealth that I wanted to see even then. Having something in the physical that represents what you want has been mighty powerful.
Absolutely.
And that includes money, because you're constantly seeing it. Yeah. Every day, it's right on my table. I'm constantly seeing it. Yeah. So therefore, the mind is constantly creating that. Yeah. Our words become our worlds. Our language creates our life, and our thoughts become things.
Yeah. I love this so much. And I'm just going to back up just a minute and we'll move forward. But you said, Sohan, you said every emotion is a learned behavior, right? Yes. So sometimes we think that we just have these emotions and we feel fear or love or sadness or joy or whatever the emotion is, and we just think it kind of happens to us. But what you're arguing is that we can go into that subconscious mind, and with tap, tap, tap. So I read a book once called TNT, It Rocks the Earth, I think it was called. Do you know that one? Have you read it? And he was basically saying you can have almost anything, or he didn't say almost, he said you can have anything you want if you just figure out what it is and you repeat it. And he just called it tap, 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 right? Yes. Tap, tap, tap. And so that's what you're saying. And Vas, you were saying you did that, right? Like you had some money concerns. You're on your deathbed. You don't want to die, but you're like, hey, if I'm going to live, and I'm going to live, like, I don't want to be on the streets either, right? So that's right. So you went out. I love that you actually went and got some fake money, right? Yeah. And so that you could just continually remind yourself and reinforce that unconscious mind that, hey, I've got it. This is what it feels like to have money. This is so. So you would say that is kind of how you change a mindset of lack, and you just constantly you literally go in and reprogram that subconscious or unconscious mind by saying, no, it's not that we don't have it anymore. Look at it. We have it. It's abundant.
Exactly. And we did that with our relationship as well. Yeah. When I called Sohan in after 40 years of searching for, the love that I wanted, something sort of tapped me into the solar plexus and said, Vas, you've got to put it on Facebook, what you want, be specific. I'm like, this is really weird. And because I get a lot of psychic downloads, I'm thinking, like, I like being pretty private. What is this? Why am I feeling this? And it wouldn't let me go. It was like somebody just kept tapping me and tapping me and tapping me. And I thought, okay, I'm finally going to do it. So February 28th, prior to even meeting Sohan, I made a future frame and vision boards, and I put them in I put them in beautiful frames as to what I wanted, so forth and so on, in all areas, what it was going to be like. He even called me what I wrote. He called me a queen, and I circled that. I want him to call me a queen. I've got it even till the end. And you go, wow, we attract, what we really want. It's so easy when you know. So Feb 28th, I wrote down exactly what I wanted. I wanted to start my own academy, and I wanted a business partner or partner to be able to come on this journey with me. I would really love it if he was vegetarian, into marketing, had a similar life and love mission. And then 13 days later, he shows up.
Wow. I mean, look, we could do 6 more shows, right? I mean, we could talk about manifestation and relationships. Like, I feel like we almost need to do a weekly show or something. I don't know. But my gosh, I'm loving this so much. There's so much. Like, I'm writing notes here, and I haven't even gotten to go back to so many things I wanted to talk to you guys about. It's so good. So for those of you listening and you're still hanging out with us, you don't know this, but when I was messaging with Sohan the other night, I was like, man, look, we want you to come on the show, and he was like, yeah, we want to come on, but he's like, he says, as long as I can bring my queen on with me. And I love it. And I'm so happy to have both of you guys here and sharing all this stuff. So, I mean, Vas, you were just talking about basically manifesting, right? You had a very clear intention of what you wanted to manifest. And you've already mentioned it in money. We've talked about it in health, and now we're talking about it with love. And you had a very clear understanding of exactly what you wanted. And you'd already been through absolute heartbreak, right? This 36 months ago, which you described earlier in the show. And you're like, you know what? I'm through with that in my life. I want the highest, the best there is, right? And Sohan's sitting over there very humbly like, yeah, that was me, brother. That was me. And here I came.
I showed up.
He's just humbly just hanging out like, yeah. The universe brought me in. Here I am.
Exactly.
I love it.
It's funny because that story.
I love it. Yeah.
One of the things that we always say this. It's not. I say this for sure. It's definitely not what you just. You attract what you are, not just what you want.
Hold on a minute. Jake, do you want to have a good laugh? I created a menu, not a menu, a menu. I had it all laid out.
I love it.
Be specific because the universe can bring anyone in. I learned
because she's vegetarian. Right? She's been vegetarian.
Yeah.
I only went vegetarian last year, and I went vegetarian before we met, before I even knew she existed.
And that was on the list.
Now, that was on her list. The other thing is she was looking for someone who is great with marketing and business and things like that. So again, that was something that I've been doing. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I had literally almost filed for bankruptcy in December 2018, ironically, because my emotional state was so down. Mm-hmm. I was bankrupt emotionally that it affected my finances because I went through a narcissistic relationship too,
as well,
and I was ready to kill myself and commit suicide by ramming my car right into the shopping center.
And aren't you glad you did it?
I didn't do that, but the reason I didn't do that is because there was a voice in the head that said, come on, you're here for something more. You haven't completed what you wanted to complete. Remember we said decide, commit, resolve? I hadn't resolved it yet. So I said, I've got to stay back and do it. So I did. I stayed and I started working on myself and I became the man I wanted to be for the woman I wanted to attract. What do I mean by that? I became the king to attract the queen I wanted. So I wanted to have the queen in my life. I've been married before for 10 years. It wasn't the marriage in the sense of it didn't go downhill in the sense of violence and it was emotional debris for sure, but it wasn't physical violence or any of that. But what was missing was myself. See, I could never say it was the other person because if any relationship, whether it's at work or at home, if it's ever lacking, it's not because the relationship is lacking. It's because the relationship with ourselves is lacking. Self-love is what comes down. We men don't refer to it as self-love, but we refer to it as self-worth. But I think men are now getting more comfortable with the love idea. But the thing was, I had to come back and learn what it was to be a good guy. And being a good guy by most men is having to please the other woman or please their women, even if it meant they sacrifice their own self or they sacrifice their own feelings. And that was not a great thing. I did that for a long time. And I was sabotaging, which what happens to a lot of men. What do? We don't express. We suppress or repress. And that took me to a place where I was of no return almost. So when that realization happens and when you move forward, which I did, I decided I'm going to be that king who deserves a queen that I described. And guess what? It naturally happened. I showed up She showed up, she calls me into a vortex, and that was it. So our souls have been searching for each other for a long time. I'm talking about 40 plus years.
Oh, Jake, I have to interrupt here. I actually bought, funny you should say king, because I actually bought a tiara, which I never would even think of doing. I bought a tiara. I've actually got it here.
Way before.
So just before meeting him, I bought it and I was like, oh my God, I can wear it at my book launch. I don't know, something's drawing me to this. So hello, I had to be the king for the queen.
I love it. Is that the red one? Is that the red one? I've seen it in some
video. She'll bring it. She'll show it. That's her other passion, which is dress ups, and salsa. She loves salsa. She for sure has been a Latino in a previous life.
I love it. That means a whole lot.
I'm fast best. Ask her what her Latino name is. She'll tell you.
What is your Latina? I'm broadcasting from Houston, Texas. So Sohan just brought up the Latina stuff. So
this is the time I leave the conversation. You guys can hang out because she'll be talking.
Tiara.
I love it.
I kept going past this shop and I'm like, no, for some reason I have to get it because so many people call me the queen of self-love, and I thought that so relates. So here you go, queen.
So it's exactly true, and this sounds ridiculous. I mean, she said something along the lines of, I always like this Ricky Martin guy, and then I had this hairstyle which Ricky had done somewhere similar hairstyle. I'm going, no, I don't have Ricky Martin hairstyle. She goes, it's quite similar. I mean, I had that down. I'm like, okay, well,
I did.
It's cognitive dissonance that happened in that moment for me, but it's true. What you want is what you can attract, but you've got to learn to understand. You got to become that first to attract that in your tangible reality, and that's why the becoming is the feeling, it's the emotion. Going back to what you were saying before, how do you get people to be in that emotional state? Well, it's the emotional state that you got to embody the emotion. You want to be happy, you want to have a happy life. Well, become happy. Become a happy guy. Don't wait to have happiness, because happiness is internal. Everyone's heard that cliche, right? But we practice the becoming of what we want. That means every day I wake up, I can choose to say, good God, it's morning, or I can choose to say, good morning, God. One of the choices. If I choose to say good God, then that means I'm choosing happiness and gratitude. And every single time in our lives, when we've been saved from whatever it was to get us to a point where we are today, it has gratitude, rampage of gratitude. Every time you want to exercise an emotion that's going to be taking you to the next level, practice the rampage of gratitude. What is rampage of gratitude? Well, everything that your eyeballs lay their sights on, you say thank you and you say why.
I love that.
That's it. And that's a rampage. You go on that for a minute or two or even 10 minutes, and that muscle conditioning is powerful. And we've done that. Every time we have a low time, guess what? We're always sitting in front of each other and going, what are you grateful for, babe? What are you grateful for? And that sometimes it's hard when you're so caught up in that emotion of anger or upset or guilt or sadness or fear or whatever it is. It's hard to want to come out. Guess what? The only one who can make that happen is us. We can move that in a heartbeat, a decision like that in a moment, to go in a state of gratitude. Say, okay. And if you practice that over and over, constantly, I'm grateful of this because of this. I'm thankful of this because of this. It's powerful, man. It's really great. She thanks me every day when I make the bed. Great. But she says why in her head, even if she doesn't announce it. And I already know it. So that's cool. That's the thing. We're so, may not be for everybody, but we're so in sync, and we're telepathic. Like the day, the week I moved in with her, I remember I was sitting here on the couch and I was thinking about, I want to get some, I wish I could put some turmeric. Maybe I should put some turmeric in my chai.
What happened to my sister just
Guess
yesterday?
what she does? She comes out of the bedroom. She goes into the pantry in the kitchen, pulls out turmeric, puts it on the kitchen bench and goes, here, babe. And I'm going, I didn't say that. Did I say that? I didn't say that. She did. And that's not once. It's happened a million times with many other things. So, last night she makes a call to her sister because she felt her sister feeling really low because their mom is in the hospital. And she just picked up the phone and calls her sister, and her sister was bawling her eyes out saying, I've been in a bad space.
I feel you.
And she felt it. So telepathy is powerful when you're emotionally connected with your source. And it's a muscle that's practiced. Women can find that easily. Men don't. But we have that. We have that muscle in us to be able to build our emotional strength by being connected with our gut and intuition. So stay in the body, stay out of the head, because you're dead.
And I want to that, Jake, as well, is really asking the the universe specifically what you want. That matters, because you can say, oh, I just want a happy relationship. Feel anything else because that's all you wanted. You know, so be specific about what
I
you
said
want.
red hair. I did say it, and it happened.
Wow.
My friend just said, I remember a random day, I just turned around and said, I got to do something different, but I'm going to be specific. So I said red hair. She shows up. She shows up. No kidding, you guys. You got to be specific, and you'll have everything you want. Maybe not immediately, but it will happen. You can have everything you want in life.
That's right.
You can have it all. You just got to have to embody what you want to have. Feel the feeling, and then take action, and then see what happens. It'll come.
Well, like attracts like. So when you embody the attributes of what you want in another, it can be no other way than to draw that same reality to you.
Yeah. It's powerful. And the energy, dude, you spoke about having the energy. That's one thing that's really required, right? Emotional elevation. Well, how can you have high performance with low energy? It doesn't work. How can you have a happy, amazing relationship when you're low in energy? This boring as ditch water, boring as a bat. What if you had, you know, a business that you want to create? If you don't have energy and you're not energetic and enthusiastic about it, like if you've got kryptonite, you got to be really excited because that's kryptonite. Because you got one life, one moment, and you want to share that with everyone. So you got to be excited about it, because the more you excited you are and the energy you have, the higher the vibration, the frequency matches what you want, and boom, it happens in times that you don't expect. That's why every single person you ask, whatever success they had in wealth, health, and relationships has come in a moment that they least expected. In the moment that they least expected, but what they went in was with expectancy, belief, intention, and an embodiment of that elevated emotion. Boom, that brought it like draws it in, because it's right here, guys. So it's right here. The listeners need to know this. Whatever you want is already created. People have done that. It's out there. The evidence is real. It's literally calling you as much as you're calling it. But the only reason why there's a delay is because you're not embodying the feeling of after what you get. You know, once you get it, once you acquire it, that feeling that you get, that ecstasy, that orgasm, that feeling needs to be felt now. You need to feel that orgasmic feeling now if you want to feel that orgasm straight away. You know, that's when the orgasm will happen. That's when the ecstasy will take place. And that's when the material aspect comes in handy. That's why we hold our Bitcoins and our Ethereum in our hands. It's tangible.
That's right. And it is all energy. So we have to take that on board and understand that we are made up of energy.
Yeah.
And so is everybody else. Room and you know, just the life's been sucked out of that room. Or have you ever walked into a room? It's like walking into heaven and a sunshine. That's what our energy conveys to others without speaking to us.
That's one thing Dispenza says, right? We're like 99+% energy. And we tend to think in the natural realm, but in reality we're just energy, right? And the vibration is so important. And y'all been talking about manifesting and manifestation. And, you know, Sohan, you gave some tangible examples of manifesting quite a few. You manifested each other, right? And even just little things, right? And we really, once we get a clear intention with an elevated emotion and we don't let it go, tap, tap, tap. And those things are already created in what Joe Dispenza would call the quantum field, right? And then it's already there. The money's already there. We already have it. We've just got to attract it to us by matching that elevated emotion, which essentially is an elevated frequency.
Correct.
Yes, and seeing it, like having the tangible money there, even if it's fake, you know, set it up beautifully, you know, and put it somewhere where you can see it daily. You know, put that beautiful body just on your fridge, for example, you know, so every time you go to the fridge, you know, you can see the body that you aspire, you know, to look like and feel like, and that amazing, you know, energy you're going to have. So continue to feed the mind with the repetition of what you want to create, because that's the only way to break those old habits and create that new life.
Jake, you know, we say this, you know this, and this is where your listeners might know this as well, but this is a reminder. This is us, and this is what we want. And what's in between is our BS, our belief system.
Okay, that's good. Wow.
Ooh, mic drop.
So what do I need to do to make this happen? Well, take care of the BS. Everything's sorted. And every single time, it's the BS. It's not the resources. It's not that I've got one arm, one leg, one finger, $1 in the bank. It's never that stuff. The amount of stories that people have heard about successes that have come out of people who have never seen anything. I mean, heck, you know, we were talking about it in our family, in our crypto family the other day. One of the guys, you know, shared the story, and this was great. It was a reminder for us because we didn't remember. He started with $150. He had nothing. He actually borrowed $150, and about 3 months later, he's got $500,000. 3 months later, if a guy who's got $150 could sit there and make that happen because he took action, this was him, this is what he wanted, and what he took care of was his BS. Yes. That's what it is. Exactly. So that's the truth, which people are not willing to confront.
Right. And that I feel like I mean we've got like 3 or 4 master classes could be taught on this stuff, right? I mean I feel like you guys are teaching a master class on manifestation right now, right? Yes. And I'm just gonna ask right now. I mean, can I get you guys back on? You want to come back on, do another show? I mean, we should do some more shows, right?
We would love to help you, brother.
We've got so many different amazing topics, right? I mean, you guys teach, you know, love, money, and mindset, right? But we've gotten into manifestation, we've gotten into relationships, which is love. We've barely begun to scratch the surface on financial freedom, and I know that's one thing that you guys are helping people with right now is financial freedom, right? And people struggle with their health, they struggle with their relationships, but you know, people struggle so much with financial freedom, and that's something that I know you guys are doing a lot with right now, right? And there are ways that people can become financially free, like now, like never before, right? We've got things like blockchain, we've got things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and all of these different things that didn't exist 20 years ago, right? 200 years ago, it just didn't exist, and that's something that you guys are big into. And helping people create this financial freedom, right? I mean, I think so many people would just say, like, if I could just get financial freedom in my life, it would just change everything. Then I would have time to focus on my health, have time to focus on my relationships, my hobbies, maybe even on helping change other people's lives, right? I don't know if we have a lot of time, and I don't think that I want to give it a lot more time to talk about what you guys do in terms of helping create financial freedom for people. Would you guys be willing to come back, you know, sometime in the near future, and we could just, you know, maybe even do just a master class on, you know, we've got 3 or 4, but let's pick one. I think the next one, if you guys want to do one, and we could just, hey, let's do one on financial freedom. Are you guys down with that?
Yeah, let's do that, man. We're down. Let's go.
I love it. I love it.
Deserves that that ability to be able to be in charge and in control of their money, even during lockdown. Yeah. You know, could you imagine that you could earn whatever it is that you want to earn, and it's all up to you? Yeah. You know, we've just seen families go from strength to strength, people being unable to pay their utility bills, you know, to being able to actually be financially free, not dependent on what's happening, but the only person they're dependent on is themselves.
You know what, Jake?
It
goes back
really
to the
amazing.
Same conversation when it comes to money. I mean, it goes back to the same thing, pleasure and pain. Yeah. People are so financial freedom is a lot about pleasure. And yet people don't take action to do that. Why? Why doesn't the position change? Because they're not so much in pain yet to experience that. And that poverty needs to end. Yeah. That poverty mindset has to end. Right. Like, we've got to get people to stop living with their address of scarcity, and they've got to learn to move into
Abundanceville,
that's
baby.
It. Location change makes a difference. Proximity is power. The people you hang out with makes a difference. Environment is different. If you're an eagle hanging out in a duck school, you're going to quack your way to your death. But if you're an eagle hanging out with eagles, you're going to soar. So hanging out in Abundanceville and changing your address and location is going to change everything.
It's going to change your life.
Correct. You can't live with toxic people or toxic environment to expect to come out and be abundant. It's not going to work. You're going to have to change that environment. So it's the same thing. Scarcity ain't going to serve you. Abundanceville is totally going to get you to Freedomville. That's a new location too. So how do you
love it?
that they need to have?
Yeah, we look forward to it. Thank you.
I love this. I love this so much because, I mean, my show's Onward. It's all about helping people, right? Yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, love, money, mindset. It's you know, that's what my show's about, is what you guys are all about, right? And you know, it's about being a whole person, right? You know, we want health, but if you're broke and can't pay your bills, that's not the abundant lifestyle, right?
No.
So that's really what the show's about, is abundance in every way: health, wealth, relationships. So I'm gonna get with you guys off camera, and let's do it. Let's do it as soon as possible. Let's put together a mastermind, you know, a training where people can come back. People want to learn about, you know, how to get financially free. If you guys are willing to share, I want to bring that to people, because I know there are a lot of people out there struggling with their finances and they want financial freedom. And I know you guys have unlocked that code, and I know you're willing to share that with our listeners. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up right now, because it has been an absolute delight visiting with you guys, sharing with you, hanging out with you guys. I cannot look forward. I just can't tell you how much I look forward to hanging out and doing this again with you guys.
Hey, man, likewise. Thank you for having us on the show.
Thanks for being a beacon.
You know, you're doing an amazing job. This is an amazing interview. I mean, we've had lots of interviews, and some interviewers suck, and some interviews are. You're definitely up there in the greatest of great. And I don't mean to flatter you. I mean it honestly. It's a fact. We do interviews ourselves. We see the quality of interviews, and we see the quality of questions, and your ability to want to just get information from our wisdom to bring it out in such a, you like the way you weaved the conversation for I'm getting goosebumps when I'm saying that. It's absolutely special. So thank you for your gift, man, because hey, we need more apostles like you, bro.
That's right.
You're changing the world.
You're changing the world.
Yeah. Listeners, you got to listen to every single episode of what Jake's doing, and just keep giving him feedback and ask for more, because he's out to give you guys and make sure you can get as much as you want from the onward, how to move forward and keep on moving onward.
It's about going onwards and upwards,
That's
baby.
it. Let's do it. Let's go.
Love it.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for Sohan, for that really amazing you know, testimonial or recommendation. Much love, brother. Really, both of you guys. You know, some people in life you just really vibe with, and I clearly just really vibe with you guys. You know, you guys are in Australia. I'm over here in Houston, Texas, and I love that we've been able to hang out and bring all this amazing content to people out there. So I love what you guys are doing. Thanks again for being on the show tonight. If you would just hang out with me for a minute more, you know, when we go offline, and we can chat a little bit more. But thank you guys for watching Onward tonight. It's been a very long but wonderful edition of Onward tonight. I love you guys. Love you, listeners. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you guys.
We love you guys.
Good night, everybody.